Calaroga Shark Media.
Welcome to Ballot, where we take a magnifying glass to the political circus and sprinkle it with a bit of glitter. Imagine, if you will, a world where Taylor Swift's call to vote clashes with Trump's fashion line debut and the State of the Union turns into Fashion Week. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bumpy yet fabulously stylish ride. Stephen Colbert joked, "It was kind of a tense night, because it feels like this might be the last time we get a State of the Union. Depending on what happens in November, next year might just be a Kid Rock concert and an immigrant catapult." Jimmy Kimmel went with, "President Biden delivered the annual State of the Union address, and Biden's speech was historic. It was the first time that the font size on the teleprompter was 8,000. And Jimmy Fallon added, "Biden looked out at the members of Congress and said, 'Finally, a place where I seem pretty young.'" Oh boy, Thursday's State of the Union was like the Oscars of politics, but with less singing and more shouting. Picture it, a room packed with every shade of power suit, where the dress code ranges from protest chic to glamour with a side of agenda. The Democratic Women's Caucus rocked the all-white look again, a nod to those suffragist pioneers who fought for the vote while probably never imagining their battle gear would make such a snappy fashion statement in Congress. Then there's Marjorie Taylor Greene, turning her t-shirt into a billboard with "Say Her Name, Laken Riley" emblazoned across it. It's a twist on the Black Lives Matter slogan, this time spotlighting a Georgia college student's tragic story. Earlier in the day, the House was all about law and order, passing an act named for Riley that's all about locking up immigrants who dare to steal or burgle. As President Biden strutted into the chamber, Greene wasn't just there to cheer. She was on a mission, armed with a pin and a plea for Biden to say her name. But when she tried to interrupt his speech, Biden flipped the script, saying Riley's name and leaving Greene to vent on Instagram about being ignored. You've got to admire the strategy. When in doubt, dress for the headlines. Evan Gershkovich's folks showed up in free Evan gear, making sure their son's detention in Russia got its due spotlight. And oh, the glamour from unexpected quarters. George Santos, that congressman with a talent for fiction, made a comeback in a getup that screamed RuPaul's Drag Race Extra, with a sparkly studded collar and matching silver shoes. Dr. Jill Biden and VP Kamala Harris brought their A-game too. The First Lady in her calm, sage suit, and Harris in a sleek black blazer understated yet statement-making. The night was a parade of political accessories. Lapel pins and stickers were the evening's silent commentators, with 153 stickers counting the days Israeli hostages have been held by Hamas, and Nancy Pelosi's bipartisan necklace doing its part to bridge the divide. In a vibrant display of political and fashion solidarity, dozens of Democratic congresswomen made a statement at the State of the Union, not with their words, but through the power of the color white. Channeling the spirit and struggles of early 20th century suffragists, these lawmakers stood united in their commitment to reproductive rights, all while rocking a color that's as much about making a fashion statement as it is about making a political one. These congresswomen, adorned in white and sporting pins that boldly proclaimed "fighting for reproductive freedom," were not just participating in a fashion trend. They were reigniting the fight for reproductive health care and freedoms at a time when those very rights are under siege across the nation. Following the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision and a troubling Alabama Supreme Court ruling that cast a shadow over the future of in vitro fertilization, the choice of white served as a powerful reminder of the ongoing battle for women's bodily autonomy. In an era where Donald Trump is selling sneakers and Santos gets snapped shopping at Hermes, fashion is the new political megaphone. The State of the Union? It's the runway where America's political elites show off their latest causes, wrapped up in designer labels or slogan tees. It's a primetime spectacle for a Netflix nation, where every gesture is ripe for viral fame. And unlike the exclusive world of couture, political fashion is something everyone can get in on, because nothing says grassroots campaign quite like a t-shirt that fits everyone. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill State of the Union affair. Typically, we're treated to a laundry list of achievements and promises as long as the Washington Monument. But this time, it was more of a show, orchestrated by Biden's team to paint the year ahead as a showdown between two contenders. He kicked off with a nod to Donald Trump and ended on the same note. In between, he poked fun at the Republican ruckus in the room, baiting them with barbs and even swiping a pin for good measure. For Biden, Trump was always my predecessor, never just Trump. He didn't drop Trump's name, but he sure made it crystal clear who he was talking about and who he was gearing up to wrestle in the political ring. He drew stark contrasts with my predecessor on everything from foreign policy faux pas to pandemic mismanagement. And boy, did he have some zingers ready, like quoting Trump's love letter to Putin and calling it out as downright dangerous. He didn't shy away from reminding everyone about Trump's attempts to whitewash the Capitol chaos, his pandemic apathy, or his lackluster stance on China and gun control. This was all deliberate. Biden's digs at Trump came before his own bragging or any talk of new plans for the future. But then, in a spontaneous moment, Biden went off script and threw a direct jab at Trump, practically daring him to hop on board with a bipartisan border bill that Trump had torpedoed. It was a clear sign of just how much politics is at play here and how Trump looms large in Biden's sights for the road ahead. The president quipped about his age with a twinkle in his eye. I know I may not look like it, but I've been around a while, and let me tell you, when you get to my age, certain things become clearer than ever. More in a minute. Alabama Senator Katie Britt delivered the Republican response to President Joe Biden's State of the Union on Thursday night, countering his critiques of the GOP and his boasts about his administration's accomplishments by painting a starkly different picture of the country under his leadership, while offering a contrasting vision under Republican governance. Speaking from her kitchen table in Montgomery, Alabama, the 42-year-old mother of two focused her remarks on the challenges facing ordinary Americans. Tonight, it's time for a frank conversation among American families because the reality is, we're all deeply concerned about the future of our nation. The America we cherish and hold dear seems to be slipping away. And there's a sense that the next generation will face even fewer opportunities and freedoms than we did, she remarked during her roughly 17-minute address. I fear that my own children may not have the chance to pursue their American dreams. Britt didn't mince words in describing the current state of the American dream as more of a nightmare. The raw truth about the state of our union is this: our families are struggling. The individual who disrupted President Biden's State of the Union address on Thursday night by shouting from the balcony has been identified as the father of a deceased Marine, and subsequently, he was arrested for the disturbance. During Biden's speech, interrupted mid-sentence with the claim, "America's safer today than when I took office." The interruption came from Steve Nakui, who called out, "Abbey Gate, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines." Capitol Police removed Nakui, age 51, from the chamber around 10:15 p.m. and placed him under arrest. He was charged with the misdemeanor offense of crowding, obstructing, or incommoding Congress, which typically results in a $50 fine and release. In a surprising turn of events at Joe Biden's State of the Union address, disgraced ex-congressman and known storyteller George Santos made a bold announcement. He's throwing his hat back into the political ring. Despite facing federal charges, Santos took to social media during the speech to declare his intention to challenge his former colleague, Representative Nick LaLota, for the seat. With a defiant tone, Santos vowed to engage in debates on the issues and highlight what he perceives as LaLota's weak track record as a Republican. LaLota, who played a role in Santos's removal from office, hasn't minced words about his former colleague, labeling him as a sociopath and an attention seeker. It seems the political arena is in for another round of drama as Santos gears up for a potential comeback. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Ballot, where the worlds of politics and pop culture don't just meet, they collide, dance, and sometimes wear dazzling outfits. Remember, in the grand theater of politics, every speech can be an encore, and every suit or sneaker a statement. Until next time, keep your ballots ready and your fashion game strong.